2, 3, 4. I don't want to go to school tomorrow. I can't study thinking about you. And you know I always do. I don't want to go to sleep tonight.
Coming to you from the University of Minnesota, Rochester,
And you know I always do.
our town.
Marlboro Nights.
So one of my favorite things about hosting Our Town is the opportunity I often get to meet new community members and leaders in the city. And today is no exception. Welcome to Our Town, Joe.
Thank you very much. I'm glad to be here.
So you're the new president of Experience Rochester MN.
Yes, that's correct. And the Mayo Civic Center as well.
Fantastic. Well, we'll get into a little bit of what that means in a little bit. But welcome to Our Town and welcome to our town, Rochester. So why Rochester?
Well, for me, I mean, Rochester is a really exciting, they're in this perfect stage of growth and, you know, the dynamic growth of the community, the international influx, the Mayo Clinic. It's just a standard for, you know, for wellness and for reaching out to people in the world. And so it was just for me with the recent expansion a couple years ago of the Mayo Civic Center and the changes at Experience Rochester, I just thought this was a perfect place for my family to come and to be part of the next phase for the area and for myself personally.
Yeah, it's a really exciting time to be here. How did Rochester get on your radar? You came previously from Missouri, is that correct?
That's correct. Yeah, I'm a native of Buffalo, New York, but I most recently was working in St. Charles, Missouri. And so the Rochester opportunity, honestly, I saw it out there through a national recruiter. Didn't know much about Rochester, of course, like a lot of people probably say, other than the Mayo Clinic. But when I started really looking into the opportunity, getting a close look at the Mayo Civic Center, the Destination Medical Center work going out in the community, and just the growth in the city, the thing that was most exciting to me was the city seems to know what it wants to be as time goes on, and every time anyone has a clear vision of the future, the roadmap to get there is usually a lot easier to follow. Not to say that a darn thing will be be easy here, but it will be certainly a fun challenge to help play our part to meet the goals of the city.
Yeah, certainly an adventure. So Experience Rochester now oversees quite a bit of operations, and you mentioned the Mayo Civic Center as part of that. Can you talk a little bit about what that's looking like?
Sure. Well, right now, as I'm sure a lot of people know, we're right in the very early stages of bringing both those organizations together, which that formally would take effect on January 1st. So right now, there's a lot of this. My first month has been a lot about getting out in the community, but also starting to talk and get to know some of the staff members and team members on let's say, both teams of the Civic Center and Experience Rochester. As time goes on, we'll integrate and bring those two together, as well as introduce a couple third-party operators, a food and beverage operator, as well as the operations organization for the Civic Center as well, which could be one or could be two different companies. So there's a lot in flux at the moment, but the whole point being that the goal really here is by the beginning of next year to really have one seamless organization working together to take both Experience Rochester and the Civic Center to the next level and really play upon both teams' strengths.
It's fantastic. What do you see as some of the benefits of that collaboration, that integration?
I think that you get a lot of synergy for it. The potential is absolutely there. When we were when I was in St. Charles, Missouri, now it was the convention center was run by a third party, and the CVB, which I led, was part of the city department. But one thing that we really were able to develop is sort of knock down the walls between those and really start to communicate. So when you're talking with a meeting planner, you know that your space is going to be available, and it just becomes more of a seamless integration. So you don't have, let's say, somebody calling and working on accommodating them and then say, well, we've got to check with 3 or 4 more people. So I think there's some real potential integration possibilities and some real positives there that will really reflect to the consumer, and that's ultimately who we're trying to serve, is those that are interested in coming to Rochester, but also those in the community that want to enjoy a world-class facility.
Fantastic. So you talked a little bit about one of the things that drew you in was Rochester's sort of sense of vision and following that. What's your vision for Experience Rochester MN and the Civic Center?
Well, that's a great question, and I think a lot of it is still going to be formed over these next few months. I certainly have paid very close attention to the community conversations that were happening here over the last 6-9 months. Watched an awful lot of city council meetings from my home in Missouri and got to learn about sort of the challenges and needs and great things as well. And so really, for me, more than anything, I want us to be an open organization, one that's willing to collaborate and work with people, and also dare to dream a little bit and say, hey, what does this community want? What will they support on a local level? But then also, what can we reach out in different ways to meeting planners from the region, from the nation, and across the world to say, hey, Rochester's a great spot for you, and to to really meet a great vision of world-class hospitality, and of course we're the #1 wellness destination in the world, so we want people to come and celebrate and join with us.
Fantastic. So what do you hope to learn in your first 100 days here in town?
Well, I think for more than anything, you need to learn and understand the pulse of the community as best as you can. So I'm known, if anyone knows me, I'm known to be a talker. So, but at times here, when being new, you have to learn to listen, and you have to hear people out. Because though I've been in organizations and you think you have a good read on where to go, the reality is there's nuances in each community that if you're not listening, you're shutting yourself off to many new ideas. And so for me, first is to kind of make sure that the thoughts that I've had or my first read on things are really in sync with where the community is. And then I would say second of all is to get to understand the team members. You know, there's been folks working hard at this for a long time, and to try to find their strengths and work with them. So as we start to shape a new organization, to see where they can fit in best and where we can all fit in best to thrive together and again take things to the next level.
Well, as we're wrapping up here, are there any new developments or projects on the horizon for this fall that the community, should be looking out for?
I wouldn't say necessarily new. I think that, as we just talked about a little bit, the third-party operator that we're working on. So we're doing a lot of interviews and things like that behind the scenes, which certainly aren't glamorous. But I would just say, for anyone that's interested, always go to our website, experiencerochestermn.com, and look under things to do, great restaurants, events, and we hope to see people out in the community. And then, stay tuned for early 2020 for some new and exciting things.
Great. Well, we'll certainly stay tuned, and best of luck to you as you start this next chapter here in Rochester. Welcome.
Thank you very much. I'm glad to be here.
Our Town is brought to you in part by the following amazing people and organizations.
Clements Chevrolet proudly partners with award-winning KSMQ Public Television. Clements Chevrolet in Rochester. Clements' clear value promise is to make buying a car fast, fair, and simple. The Minnesota Arts and Cultural Heritage Fund and the citizens of Minnesota.
And the members of KSMQ Public Television. Thank you.
Be sure to stick around. We've got more great stories coming up next. We grab our bikes and we go and grab a pint or two with Danielle Teal in this week's Walkabout segment. And we talk about housing. 101, all you need to know about the market rates and about affordable housing and the current state of all of that. And we go and check out Greek Fest, all the food, the sights, and the fun in this week's Our Culture segment.
Elata hola ya Greek Fest. My name is Ari Kolas, and I missed a meeting about 6 months ago, and I became the chairman of the Greek Festival. 57 years we've been doing this at the church. Our festival started out just as like a church picnic, but us being Greeks, we enjoy to have a party. We kept asking our friends, our neighbors to come, and it's grown over the years. We start planning, especially February, March, April. We have to order the tents. We start forecasting food. The dancers, the original Greek dancers of Minnesota, are a troupe that perform all over Minnesota, Wisconsin, Iowa. They're all volunteers. One woman in particular, Dr. Mortari, travels to Greece and actually brings back their authentic costumes. All these costumes are authentic, made in Greece, based off of the old things from over 200-300 years old. Some of their costumes are. They come here every year. They go to every Greek festival, and they're very traditional, but also modern, and they're great with the guests. They love to get people out dancing and having fun. This church was built about 15 years ago, and it really is made in the original ancient Byzantine style. You can see the beautiful dome. When you walk in, you feel like you're in just a little bit of heaven as you see pictures of Jesus and pictures of all the saints and the martyrs and the prophets throughout history. And we have pictures of them all over the walls. And you just get such a special feeling. And because it's such a unique Byzantine style architecture, there's nowhere else in Minnesota, especially, where you will ever see anything like this.
How long have you been involved?
Over 50 years. Basically my entire life. I was born into the church, I was baptized here, and I've always been a part of it. So you start working when you're 2-3 years old, and you just keep going. What do I get out of it? I think I enjoy talking to people. I have a good time. I like to get out dancing with my friends. My wife and I spend our anniversary every year. It always falls during the Greek festival. So to me, that's a special day because we get to celebrate our wedding anniversary with thousands of people and friends. Of course, our church, we take care of our parishioners and everyone, but we also give a lot to the community. Places like the Dorothy Day House, the Women's Shelter we give meals to every year, Ronald McDonald House, a Minnesota Adult Teen Challenge. We try to give back to the community as much as we get from the community. We love being a part of Rochester. 57 years, we feel like we've grown along with the great growth in Rochester. We've bought 4 houses right around our church. We call them philoxenia houses, where we allow people who come here to the Mayo Clinic in their times of need, and we have these free houses where they can live free of charge. You don't have to be Greek, you don't have to be Orthodox. It's open and free to everyone who comes to the clinic, needs a place to stay. And that to me is really the best thing we do as a church, because we get to meet people from around the world, and they become part of our family, and we get to help them get through some of the most trying times that they go through. I hope their takeaways is that they had a great time. They saw that Greeks love to live life, dance a little, eat a lot, drink a little bit, have fun, get to know your neighbors, and just be part of a community.
For more information about this story and other Our Town features, connect with us on Facebook, Twitter at KSMQ #OurTown, or ksmq.org/ourtown.
Story Hour isn't just for the kindergarten set anymore. Fiddlehead Coffee is placing a bet that Rochester is home to some of the most interesting people on the planet. You can share your stories or hear fascinating tales from your neighbors on a new theme every month. Receive 1 free drink with the purchase of a story ballot, and you can vote on your favorite story, and the winning storyteller gets a $25 gift card. If you want to tell a story at the next event, email hello@fiddleheadcoffee.co with the subject line Story Hour, and they'll put you on the list. And the last summer may be coming to a close, but that just means that apple time is here. During the peak of harvest season, Seacap Orchard in Rochester features a corn maze, a straw bale maze, and numerous other attractions in addition to many apple varieties. My favorite, of course, is the Pink Lady. You can pick them up yourself or pick up a bag from the bins up front. Great fun for all ages. More information at seacaporchard.com. And KSMQ will be presenting the Ken Burns documentary Country Music in the coming weeks. And if you're a country music fan, the Absolute Theater has a production right up your alley beginning on September 19th. Honky Tonk Angels features country classics combined with a hilarious story about 3 good old gals who follow their dream to Nashville. Songs include Stand By Your Man, Coal Miner's Daughter, 9 to 5, I'll Always Love You, and Harper Valley PTA. Details and tickets at absolutetheater.org. And this past week, the City of Rochester began its series of meetings discussing the 2020 budget. 3 additional meetings are scheduled to allow the greater public insight into the budgeting process, as well as to share their thoughts on city priorities. The upcoming schedule includes capital improvement projects and revenue sources before turning to the approval process. Information can be found at rochestermn.gov. And up next, it's Rise and Refreshment with Danielle Teal in this week's Walkabout, or should I say, Bike About segment.
This is Danielle Teal with Our Town Walkabout, and we're headed to Little Thistle Brewery where a bunch of bikers are gathering around for Social Brew Ride. Wow, that was a workout.
You all right?
Just kidding. You guys ready to go inside?
I'm ready.
Wait, let's go on the patio. That's where all the action is.
Is that where all the action is?
Yeah.
Okay.
Hi guys. How's it going?
Oh, hey, Danielle.
Oh, my goodness.
Nice to see you.
Okay, so this is really cool. You're able to bring your own food.
Yes.
And so what did you guys bring? I see crackers.
We stopped at Pasquale's
Okay.
because Tristina's in town just for a couple days, so
Have
we
you ever
had to try
tried their
this.
pizza?
No,
It's,
first time. It's great.
It's amazing. Does it have anchovies on it?
No.
Perfect. Perfect.
You want a piece?
Yeah, I'll dig in.
Okay,
But
okay.
first, I want to know what this is about.
You gotta ask Jorge
I'm
over
gonna
here.
dig in. Is it okay if I just dig right in?
That's pickled cucumbers, onions, and dill.
What happened? Oh, here's my fork. I'll just
All from the garden.
all
Fresh
from the garden.
from the
Fresh from the garden.
Dill.
Wow.
Jorge made this himself, and I'm gonna give it a good. I'm staying at this table. What are you here at Little Thistle for?
We're just hanging out. Neighbors, family, having a good old time here on a Tuesday night. Beauteous.
So, do you guys come here often, or is this kind of a one-off kind of hangout? Or?
We usually come on the weekends. Yeah,
Okay.
we don't normally come during the week, but we were just feeling it tonight.
So you don't go out during the week.
Yeah, not typically.
So this is your first night out.
Ever during the week.
Me too.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, congrats. It's nice, isn't it? Might do it more.
Yeah. This is Danielle Teal with Our Town Walkabout at Little Thistle Brewery. I'm gonna go and join these guys for a refreshment.
Housing is a major issue in the city, and everyone seems to have an opinion. So what do we really know about the state of housing in our community? Today we sit down with Dave Dunn, Executive Director of the Olmsted County Housing and Redevelopment Authority, to get a primer on some of our most pressing local housing issues. Welcome to Our Town, Dave.
Well, thank you for having me.
So I think we're going to be schooled today by some of the things that you're going to be sharing with us today. One of the things I was really interested in first off was, I know in 2017 we were ranked among the lowest of 400 metropolitan statistical areas in terms of our housing affordability. It's 2019, where are we with that?
Well, we've made some progress. We're not one of the bottom 4 in the country, but some of that's just because other areas have had more significant issues than we have. And so while the rankings may have improved slightly, the issue still is out there and the need is still great.
And we just got the results of the Olmsted County Residential Survey. What did the community have to say about housing in that survey?
Yeah, one of the things that we do every 3 years as a county is we bring the residents in and find out what are their concerns, what are the priorities, and what we found out was a lot about housing in Olmsted County. And we found that 87% of Olmsted County residents believe that it is essential that we have housing choices for all residents in our community. And so really looking at how do we create great housing choices. And really it's an issue that's affecting people regardless of your age, your income, your background. It's really something that people all across our community are facing.
So what is the average price of a home roundabout right now in Rochester?
Yeah, that's one of the questions we get a lot. Well, what does it mean, or what's going on right now? And home prices vary, but what I can tell you is if you have a budget of $250,000 to buy a home, you have about 45 houses in Olmsted County to choose from. The real estate experts that we talk to say that number should be around 200 to 300 at any given time. So we're having a real low inventory of homes that are affordable for most of our families. It really makes it difficult for families trying to move here, families trying to grow roots in our community, and families trying to grow.
Certainly, and that's definitely going to be a challenge as the community continues to grow and the population increases.
It is. One of the things that we're seeing is that we're not keeping up with the pace of building new homes, especially single-family homes in our community. So we need more houses. We need more housing in general. We need to have opportunities to create unique and innovative housing partnerships, and so it's something that we're looking at every day.
So in terms of, we talked a little about the sales. So what about renting? That's something we hear a lot about. How are the rents doing?
Right. I know one of the things when we go around town is you can't help but see the cranes around Rochester and all of the new housing that's going up. And one of the questions I get a lot of, well, are those new places filling up? And the short answer is yes, they are. Our vacancy rate as a whole is about 5%, which is right about where it should be. With a whole bunch of new inventory coming on the market. So we have a lot of demand for the new housing. We also know for what's considered affordable housing, that vacancy rate's only about 1.5%. So we know for those units that are affordable for a lot of our working men and women in our community, there's really not a lot of vacancy. So we have to manage that. We have to try to create new housing opportunities every day, and that's what we try to do.
And so all the cranes in the sky, to your knowledge, how many of those new developments do have some sort of affordable housing component?
Yeah, it's about 10% right now, depending upon what project and the subsidies. And not all projects have affordable units. Most of them, in fact, don't. But overall, it's about 10 to maybe 12 to 13%.
So HRA received a levy increase last fall. So what are some of the priorities under that levy program? And I know you'll be asking for the levy increase again in 2020.
Right. No, it's that timing year for us in government where we go and we talk about our budgets for next year. And so one of the things that we've been able to do is we've had a $2.5 million levy. So we've been able to invest that in the community. We really do it in 3 different areas. The first one is housing rehab. So the Housing and Redevelopment Authority, or the HRA, the organization that I work for, we administer the housing rehab program both for Olmsted County and for the city of Rochester. And so this year we're able to administer approximately 50 housing rehab loans. So that's the first area. The second area is what we call housing stability or homeless prevention. So a lot of the work that we've done with the warming center and finding places to keep vulnerable residents has fallen into that area. Also with some of our new innovative housing styles and techniques. So what we're trying to do is we know that there are barriers for people with past histories of either evictions or poor credit. And so what we're trying to do is to form partnerships with our partner agencies in Olmsted County and across the community to really provide housing options for people who otherwise wouldn't. And so we're doing what we call master leasing, where the HRA as an organization is the leaseholder and then the tenant is actually the leaseholder from us, so it minimizes the risk. And we're trying to find those market-driven approaches to make housing work for everyone. The last area is development. So the third kind of part of our levy program goes to creating new housing, because we know that we need to maintain the housing that we have, but we also know that it's extraordinarily important to create new housing opportunities that are affordable.
So what are those new housing opportunities looking like?
Right now what we're doing is we have a project actually that we're working out on Mailwood Road that would bring 30 units of permanent supportive housing for people with mental health, behavioral health issues into Olmsted County. We know this is a high need. We know that's just the tip of the iceberg. We know we have other huge needs with our senior population. We know we have other needs with family housing. And we also know that as a lot of the housing that's just been affordable over the course of time in the downtown has been eliminated through redevelopment, that we need to take a look at how do we bring that back as well.
So the city recently heard, I think maybe this week or last week, a proposal for zoning map changes that would kind of increase that residential and commercial density to the downtown corridor. This is a little bit of a big question, so with that caveat, what impact do you see things like density and then sprawl having on the housing market and affordability?
You know, with zoning in particular, it's really helpful that the city is creating these new tools. It gives us some flexibility to create units that are naturally affordable. So it's that second unit that might be above a garage, or that what they call a granny flat that might be a spot in the backyard for either an adult child to come back and live in, or maybe it's for your parents as they get older. Having those flexible options is really great in our community, and so this new zoning will help us do that.
Fantastic. And so shifting a little bit from the city, there's some proposed changes at the federal level in terms of the federal fair housing policies and proposed changes to that by HUD. What impact do you see that having in Rochester?
You know, one of the things that we do is we try to manage and understand what's going on at the federal level at any given time. And for us, that's a two-step challenge. One is because they're a funding source. And then what kind of funding do we have for the programs we administer? So we administer the public housing program, we administer the Housing Choice Voucher Program, formerly known as Section 8, but then we also administer some of the policy pieces. And so as those policies change and we have either more or fewer opportunities to make sure that everyone has an equal opportunity at affordable housing, it can be detrimental for us. And so as these changes occur, it's really important that locally we're doing everything that we can to make sure that everyone has an opportunity to have a place to live.
And you just mentioned Section 8 housing. How much? Just give us a sense of how much Section 8 housing we have here in the city.
We have 556 housing choice vouchers or Section 8 vouchers in Olmsted County, which is really significantly low depending upon our population. And so it's a resource that is very strained. Our waiting list hasn't been open in almost 7 years now, so we know that there's a pent-up demand, and it's something that we hope to be able to open up this fall. But it's really something that we see every day. Our office gets probably 10 to 20 phone calls from people in a housing crisis daily, wanting to know what resources are available. And so without those federal resources, it's difficult.
And I know there's certainly a lot of diversity in the population that's using Section 8 housing, but here in the community, do you have a sense of kind of a general profile of the folks that are seeking Section 8 or are using it right now?
We do. I can tell you that we serve about 3,500 people. Of those, about 80% are persons of color. Of those, 98% live in the city of Rochester. Our average household size is about 4 people, and they earn about $20,000 a year. So these are people who really depend on this housing stability in order to move forward and to be able to thrive and be able to have their kids go to school and to be able to grow and to meet their potential.
Great. So how can people find out more and kind of stay on top of what's going on with the housing market and housing affordability?
Yeah, www.olmstedcountyhousing.com, or if you have any questions, you can call our office at 328-7150.
Great. Well, there's certainly more to talk about. I'm sure we could talk about this for so long, and there's so many different components to the housing issue. But are there any updates that you'll be bringing to the city at all this fall, or anything that the community should be looking at?
We'll be working on our levy here in the next few weeks with the city, with the county board, and making that request coming up in September to get more funding for housing that we can have in the community.
Great. Well, thank you so much for joining us, Dan.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. And thank you all for joining us. I hope you take the opportunity this long weekend to get a little bike ride, and maybe I'll see you over at Little Thistle Brewery for a pint. From the University of Minnesota Rochester, we will see you next week on Our Town, the show about Rochester.
Our Town is produced by KSMQ Public Television, nonprofit, non-commercial. Please help pay for this programming by making a personal contribution at ksmq.org. Thank you.